Welcome. I'm Mark Crispin Miller. This is our first Tuesdays series at what we now call the McNally-Jackson bookstore. It's been rechristened. The purpose of this series is to provide a forum to authors whose books may not resonate much in the echo chamber of the mainstream media. I'm hoping that's not the case with this book, of course, but you never know. The more challenging and thoughtful any book is, well, first of all, the less chance of its being published at all, but also the less chance of its getting a hearing. So we figured we would use this beautiful forum to hear from authors who write such books. And certainly Rick MacArthur has written such a book, and it's not the first time. I'm very happy to be introducing him because he's not only someone whom I admire greatly as an independent voice, but he's an old friend of mine. We're both from the Midwest. He is the author of Second Front, which is a classic study of the propaganda campaign that made the first Gulf War such a hit, and The Selling of Free Trade, which is an equally brilliant study of the Clinton propaganda drive to put NAFTA across. I also should mention that Rick is the publisher of Harper's, which is, I think, the best magazine in America, and in no small part because Rick is the publisher. Now he is here to talk about his new book, You Can't Be President, which I think is very refreshing. I mean, obviously, we are all taught that we can't all be president. Rick is here to say that we can't, and to explain why. So here's how this will work. I'm going to sit down. He's going to talk a little bit, and then he'll take your questions, and Suhaila here will be passing a microphone around, and it's very important that you hold the question until you get to the microphone because this is being recorded for posterity. So please join me in welcoming Rick MacArthur.
Thanks for having me. I'm delighted to be here because I like to do events with independent or fellow independents, and this is the best independent bookstore in New York, as far as I know. And I'm sorry Sarah McNally couldn't be here, but she's done a great service to the neighborhood and to the city, establishing this bookstore. And I'm desperately hoping she's going to open another store on the Upper West Side before too long. The genesis of this book is World War II. My father married my mother, my French mother, after World War II. She's the classic war bride, and brought her back to Illinois, which was not that much fun for her. But as a result, I've maintained my French cultural roots and my language. And to make a very long story short, I fell in with another wonderful independent publisher in France, Les Arènes, run by a guy named Laurent Beccaria, and he asked me if I would write a book in English, because he thought he could sell it more easily to other European publishers, about explaining American democracy. I thought you might like to hear a little bit of the backstory, because it's interesting the way books come about. There was a book published years ago, which was a huge bestseller in France, impossible for such a thing to happen here, called Pour en finir avec le Moyen Âge, sort of getting over the Middle Ages. And it was a book intended to, by a scholar, intended to smash to bits all the cliches anybody ever heard about the Middle Ages, Dark Ages, wrong, for example. It's a very interesting book. It's not translated in English. He said, use this as a model and explain American democracy to us. Tell us what it's really about, what's really going on. I said, oh, it's a tall order. And he imagined it as a kind of pamphlet, or longish pamphlet, maybe 35,000 words. But once I got into it, and I'm 6 chapters into it, I said, my God, as I write this, I realize there's a lot I don't understand about American democracy technically and historically, and I know damn well that if I don't, many of my fellow citizens don't know much about it. And this could make a nice American edition at greater length. So it ballooned into something more like a regular book, and I was fortunate enough to hook up with Dennis Johnson from Melville House and do a somewhat different version for him than from the French edition, which is out. And what I tried to do, because I had limited time, I needed to get it out in time for the election, was to organize it somewhat thematically. And it's Kelly Burdick, Dennis's assistant here, who had the brilliant idea of calling it "You Can't Be President," and organizing it in the sense of, here are the 10 reasons or the 8 or 9 reasons why, of course, technically anybody can be president, but strictly, broadly speaking, nobody can be president. Nobody can really fully participate in their sovereign obligations or their sovereign rights in America. And I had to leave a lot out, but with Laurent's help and Dennis's help, I tried to pare it down to what I thought were the essentials of obstacles to participation in democracy, why you couldn't be president. And fortuitously, Junior Scholastic magazine, which my older daughter was getting at junior high school, appeared with a big piece last September, "Could You Be President?" Which was a nice taking off point for the American edition, because it explained just how deeply held the myth is in America that anyone coming from nowhere can be president. Now, as I'm doing this book, along comes Barack Obama, and he's certainly featured front and center in the Junior Scholastic article, looking like, well, what do you mean? Anybody? Of course anybody can be president. Half African, single mother, comes from nowhere, et cetera, et cetera. How can you say this? So I had to extend myself even further, because originally I wasn't intending to do a current affairs chapter, and I really had to get more into the campaign between Clinton and Obama, and more into intra-Democratic Party politics, as well as intra-Republican Party politics, to explain McCain's sudden resurgence, surprise resurgence. And so you get a book that's got all my themes, my basic historical themes, because there's a lot of history in it. But I end with a very long and I hope interesting epilogue where I discuss why Obama he's not even the exception that proves the rule. He's not from nowhere. And it dovetails nicely with some of the other chapters that I talked about. The principal thing that I try to explain, I want to get a conversation started as quickly as possible, is that the two biggest problems in explaining the non-participation of the average citizen in American democracy is that people sort of, and this is barroom logic, it's all about money. Well, yeah, it's about money. Yeah, money is a tremendous obstacle now, and I talk about that. Or if you're a little bit more sophisticated, it's about, let's say, the Electoral College. The Electoral College is anti-popular. It discourages popular participation in New York State. None of our votes count. I mean, Obama's already won New York State. We could all stay home and it wouldn't make any difference, or vote for whoever you feel like voting for. What I don't think people have a good grasp of, and I tried to get into in greater detail than most journalists do, is the enduring power of the two political parties and the cartel-like structure of the two political parties, how difficult it is for an amateur to enter into politics, even a well-financed amateur.